and collaboration from the Board of Selectmen on the budget making process and recommendations. But again, there is absolutely no requirement that they do so. And it is solely up to the discretion of the Board of Finance as to whether they want to proceed in a manner set forth in the task force recommendations or something similar to the task force recommendations. So again, so this is what I've said repeatedly. I've studied this charter for the last 10 years at least, and that's my interpretation. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Is it safe to say, though, that just about every town has the same setup where the Board of Finance is responsible for the budget? I don't think this is unique to Woodbridge.
No, I don't know. I haven't looked at very many charters in other towns, but just as anecdotal discussions with people from other towns, lawyers from other towns, reading about other towns, it's clear that the Board of Finance generally is subject to, is responsible for the budget making process as opposed to any other board or commission.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Jerry?
No, I just want to thank you, Jerry.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I just want to say thank you because it was helpful and clarified how we need to think about, or the framework for thinking about what the Board of Selectmen has. I don't know what they did, if they adopted it or sent it, or I don't know exactly what it is, but that's very helpful.
I think so far they've made the recommendations and they presented to the Board of Finance and to the Board of Selectmen. I don't think there was any vote taken by the Selectmen on the recommendations. Right,
That's true. The three members of the Board of Selectmen did it to the full Board of Selectmen, and it was agreed to send it to the Board of Finance for further discussion.
Correct.
So the Board of Selectmen never adopted it?
No.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, have a great meeting, everyone.
You're excused, Mr. Weiner.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Pleasure.
Have a good holiday. Have a good holiday.
Thank you.
And okay, we're going to move on. Tony, for the first time in his, whenever I can remember, Tony's got to leave a little early because his son is playing baseball. So we're going to move Tony right in. So Tony, why don't you get started with your report?
Okay, thank you, Matt. So we have the year-end report for 2020, and despite all the ups and downs of we wind up with a surplus of just over $100,000. And that leaves us with a fund balance of 13% of our expenditures, which I think is a good place to be in considering all of the challenges many municipalities are facing. We had some large swings, as I indicated earlier, and there's an Excel sheet there. You can clearly see each department and their where the surpluses and deficits are from. I'll just highlight some of the major ones. The charge for services was short $120,000. That's basically our user fees, and most of that's recreation because we basically closed all of spring, including the summer camp. The tax collections were short about $230,000. We've seen that come back this season, and so at this point, we don't anticipate similar issue. And investment income is a shortfall of $70,000, and state grants had a surplus of just under $140,000, primarily because we budgeted conservatively and for our ECS grant and received an extra $100,000 there. So that's the sort of, you can see some large swings in our revenues. So our revenues had a deficit of just about $290,000. However, on our expenditures, we had several departments with surpluses. One is the registrar, about $25,000 because we delayed the primary. The Board of Finance had $88,000 due to funds remaining in contingency that were not used. Police had $44,000 surplus because there were 2 vacant officer positions. Building official had a surplus of $34,000 because we hired a part-time building official instead of a full-time. The Public Works Department had a $58,000 surplus. We had 2 vacant mechanic positions in the department that year, one of which we eliminated and one of which was just recently filled. Human Services had a $63,000 surplus due to the vacant senior center director position. Some part-time staff that were laid off in the spring. Recreation, again, even though there was a revenue loss of over $100,000, they also had a savings of a surplus of $100,000 because they canceled programs. So they were pretty much a wash. The library had a surplus of $80,000, mostly because the library closed. And benefits was $30,000 due to savings in healthcare and a couple other areas. And the Woodbridge Board of Education returned $107,000. So if you add all those, the excess of revenues over expenditure, we had a $105,000 surplus.
Okay.
Highlights.
Any questions for Tony?
I want to make is we did not, believe it or not, some towns have budgeted in their FY21 budget for money to receive from the federal government. And actually some have budgeted quite a lot in their budget that they would anticipate receiving from the government for coronavirus relief. We did not budget for that. It's certainly more, I think, more appropriate considering you don't know really if you're going to get that money. So we could be getting some relief from that also.
Good.
Okay.
Any questions for Tony on this? Update on the audit, Tony?
The audit starts, let's see, 28th. Believe it or not, it's a virtual audit. So everything, yeah, if you could believe it. So everything that I have to send them, I have to upload to a secure website, and then they, review everything and there's questions. So it's interesting. I never thought I'd have a virtual audit, but
Yeah.
that's what we have. So
Okay. Proposed meeting dates. Do we need to do anything with this, Karen?
Just take a look at them now, make sure this fits into your schedule, make sure there's no conflicts.
Okay. Okay, any questions or anything on the meeting dates? Pretty standard. All right. Woodbridge Board of Ed financial report.
so we just had the year-end results.
Tom Handler can probably run that through it.
Yeah.
Anything else, Tom?
No, that's it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Funding requests, we have one. And it is for government access television, in the amount of $5,500. It's actually a line item transfer for maintenance contracts funded through a cable advisory grant. So I'll move acceptance of line item transfer 2021-04 in the amount of $5,500.
Is Tom here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is, okay.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor, I'll call you. I'm a yes. Susan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes,
Okay. It's only four of us, so that's.
makes it easy. If I can just interject just for a second, because I know you said Tony might have to leave sooner. I wasn't able to make the last Board of Ed finance meeting, and I don't know if Tom Kennefick was able to make it, but because he isn't here.
Okay.
So I didn't think that there was anything.
Well, there's a few things floating around we can talk about, but.
Yeah.
We'll go through that. Update on, there's nothing in here on this, but update on possible bond issue, Tony?
Yes, this is more of an FYI for the board, considering that the board is involved in the process. The Board of Selectmen is has been discussing the old firehouse for quite a while, as you are all aware. And we settled on, David Stein of Silver Petrocelli did a presentation and sort of settled on some uses for that, which includes renovating the old firehouse, common area, use on the bottom floor for different uses that are sort of general to public, the possibility. So in other words, they're going to outfit it so that you can use it for various uses. That's Bays 2 and Bays 1 and 2. Bay 3, you could outfit in a fitness center, or you can use it for whatever else you want to use it for. It will be outfitted so that it's a multi-use space. And then, so as part of that, we would have to issue bonds to finish the project. So the budget is approximately $1.8 million. As part of that process, the fire department would have the storage facility completed across the street in the back, and they would have all their storage in that facility. So that's sort of what we were thinking. There are 2 other projects that have been discussed as possible additions to the bond issue, just to that are more immediate in nature. One is a leaky or almost leaky roof at the school. I'm not sure if it's exactly leaking. I don't want to say that. I just know that they have a roof at Beecher School that they need to replace, and was not part of the last project. The other is, as you are all aware, there are some. The senior center has been requesting some improvements to their space, so we thought we discussed the possibility of some additions, some renovation to the senior center. So those are the projects that are currently being discussed concerning the bond issue. Rates are, as you know, historically low, and so
I would certainly, as long as you're going to be doing this, look and see if there's anything out there which needs funding. Now is the time. It's a small bond issue, and you're going to pay the same fees to get the
correct.
So, I would definitely look to see if the roads or anything at all that needs to be bonded.
Yeah.
You might as well go look at it now.
I did a bond presentation, a debt presentation rather, to the board, and it's 2,000, and so the 2020, so the 2,000 bond issue has been paid. So that falls off our debt service, which is, of course, the elderly purchase was a big part of that, and it was funding for the big dig, the back, for the renovation, for the remediation. It was like a $4 or $5 million issue at the time, which was a large issue.
Okay.
So that falls off our debt. So we have, good ability.
Matt?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know if this is totally appropriate to bring up, but has there been any discussion about the police department? Because as Matt said, and Tony, that with rates so low and what needs we have, it does seem like that one's waiting in the wings, right?
Yeah, we didn't have too much discussion on that. There's probably more work to be done on that, and it's just more. The other thing that the building needs some work as well, in addition to the police department. The windows probably need to be replaced, and there's other improvements, but that wasn't discussed. I suppose
That would be. I think
a large.
Last time we got a presentation was a long time ago, so I've got to believe there's got to be some work done to get that ready for discussion.
How much work has been done on that recently? So that would have to be later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anything else? So you'll keep us posted on this.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we'll be involved in the voting and et cetera, but
Right.
I'd love to hear from you. Okay.
Okay.
So Tony, if you want to go, you're free to go.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna make a motion that item 5, that we postpone the election of chairman and vice chairman to hopefully next month when we have a full board. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? I'm a yes. Ellen,
Susan, yes.
Tom, are you a yes?
I'm a yes.
Okay, we're good. All right, next is approval of minutes. The first minutes we have are from Thursday, July 16th. This would be our regular Board of Finance meeting in July. And I will move acceptance of the minutes of July 16th as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion or corrections? Okay, hearing none. I'm a yes. Susan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
And that's-
Next was our brief meeting on Thursday, August 20th, to approve a few things. I will move acceptance of the minutes of Thursday, August 20th as presented.
Second.
Any discussion on these minutes? Okay, I'm a yes. Susan,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Next, item 7, we took care of. That brings us to the first selectman's report. Beth.
Thank you, Matt. I'm probably going to be the longest part of the meeting because I want to talk a little bit for the audience out in TV land as well.
Sure.
I spoke with you this afternoon, Matt. We want to do a couple of PSAs while we're here. I'll just tell you a little bit about the Board of Selectmen meeting. At our regular meeting last week, the Board of Selectmen agreed to sign a new long-term lease with the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society. I'm also happy to report that the society is also completing the necessary code compliant items at the apartment, which will allow them to bring in a caretaker to move in. As you know, the town owns all of the buildings at the Darling House property, and the Historical Society owns all the collections with them. Additionally, both the Darling House Advisory Committee and the Society agreed to remove the deconstructed pieces of the Little Lucy one-room schoolhouse that's been a cow barn, which is a large yellow barn across the street from the Darling House. This must be done in order to provide access so that the planned state grant-funded survey and planning assessment, including structural assessment, may be achieved. The pieces have been stored by the town since approximately 1991. We're looking to see if anyone might be interested in taking the pieces of the schoolhouse, but if not, it will be removed and properly disposed of later this fall. Here we go with the public service announcements. As I reminded the board, to all folks who are virtually watching this evening, I am aware that many residents are anxious about the upcoming November elections. You may vote in person. However, the Secretary of the State will be mailing out absentee ballot applications to all registered voters in the state. These applications coming in from the state will have barcodes on them in order for our town clerk's office to keep track of them. The town clerk's office will be mailing out these ballots. We will again have an official state ballot box at the front of town hall so that residents can drop off their applications as well as their ballots. This is an unprecedented election due to the pandemic. Our town clerk, assistant town clerks, and registrars are doing an amazing job of trying to make this all work successfully. It's a very difficult and time-consuming process. Please make every effort to return your ballot application quickly. And then once you receive your ballot, return that as soon as possible as well. You can mail it in, but the best way to return it is to drop it off in the secure ballot box in front of Town Hall. I was reminded this afternoon by our Human Services Director, Jeanette Blixman, that transportation may be arranged for seniors or disabled residents to return both absentee ballot applications and ballots to the ballot box outside Town Hall prior to Election Day. You can call 203-389-3430 to arrange transportation at least 24 hours in advance. One more public service announcement.
Can I just wanted to say something
Sure.
about, I think the, that ballot box, I saw it looked like it was moved a little bit. So
It
right,
is.
it's like straight in front and now it's over towards the mailbox.
We moved it so people can drive up. People can drive up, but there's a big sign on the left side of the front hall that has a big arrow pointing to where it is.
Right.
And it's right next to the mailbox, so people can just, they don't even have to get out of the car, drive up and pop it in. We tried to make it as easy. I mean, it wasn't my decision. Obviously, the town clerk did it, but it's a good thing, you know, to have it right there so they could just pop the things, and applications as well as ballots can go in, which is nice.
Yeah,
It eliminates the mail system.
thank you.
You're welcome.
However, can I say something about that? Excellent, all the way around. The box itself does not say applications may be left here. It only says ballots. So maybe somebody could put a sticker on it that says, place your application or ballot in here, because
I would be happy to suggest that to the town clerk's office, because that was the Secretary of the State who built all those boxes, not the
Right.
town clerks, but you're right. Okay. I'll be
Thank
happy
you.
to mention that. You got it. So we want to make it as easy as possible for folks to vote.
exactly.
I got my applications in the mail today, by the way. I was very excited.
Good.
I did too.
Yay. Our Human Services Department has organized 2 flu shot clinics for residents and staff. One will be a drive-through clinic and the other will be under the canopy by the library. And if you would like to make yourself available of that, you must make a reservation. Please call the Human Services Department at the same, 203-389-3429 if you have any questions or to make an appointment. Two pieces of good news that came to the Board of Selectmen last week. We unanimously approved two Eagle Scout projects, one from James Catalina of Troop 63, who's going to build and install a kiosk with a message board, donor wall, and bench just outside the dog park. And secondly, Jack Fortin will build and install low walkways on a section of town-owned trail off Sanford Road to allow passage over wet areas. So they're still working. It's great. Tony kind of gave the update regarding the old firehouse, but as you know, there was a fire there in 2006. There have been several upgrades through insurance and a steep grant to the building. We did windows at one point, roofing, and several pieces of electrical work. But the Board of Selectmen voted last week to approve that the entire building be used exclusively for town use, such as multi-use meeting room space and things like that. The fire department will obviously have to have their shed, and we'll get them out of there, and they'll be all in one spot across the street, which I think is great for them and for us. We've engaged as Tony said, David Stein to help us further. And the secondary part of the project is the shed. Tony and I spoke with Amity Superintendent Jennifer Byers this past Monday, and we plan to move forward with the Amity transition program coming in to rent the upper level. So that possibly could be some offsetting revenue once that happens. And maybe as early as September of next year, depending on how long it takes to get the project done. But that's a good thing. The building will have an elevator. We're putting in a small kitchenette upstairs. And beyond that, we'll let Amity decide what they need. And finally, as I always do, a reminder to everyone, out of respect for each other and to keep each other safe, please continue to wear masks and practice safe social distancing. When we work together, there's nothing in Woodbridge we can't do. Thank you. I got to keep saying, wear your mask and keep socially distant. It's just my thing.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for allowing me a little bit more time. I'm sorry.
Thank
I don't
you.
know what to talk about. Thank you.
Okay. Item 9 is designation of Board of Finance liaisons. It's okay with everybody. I'd probably like to postpone that also until everybody's here. I don't see there being any major switches or whatever. So why don't we just make that part of the motion to postpone the election? So, okay. And next is liaison reports. I will go first. We had a meeting of Amity Monday night, rather testy meeting, and I'll tell you why. First of all, they've never done it before, but Amity is allowed, well, not allowed, Amity can request to hold 1% of their prior year budget and put it into a capital and non-recurring account to cover capital projects rather than go to bonding. So they had decided when they had money left over that they wanted to do this, and that would be to the tune of just under $500,000, $495,482. It was my understanding, and it was other people's understanding, that in order to accomplish this, they'd have to have a district meeting in which there would be votes cast to see if the towns really agreed with it. But we were informed at this meeting that they did a lot of research with CABE and with the Connecticut State Board of Education and lawyers and all these different things. And they were told that you can pass this by a board vote and you do not have to go to the town for approval, which I wasn't happy with, especially because we didn't have a legal letter in here. All we had was them saying they spoke to different regions and CABE, and I said, gee, it would be nice, do you think, to have a written opinion perhaps from your attorney? And they didn't, but there was nothing we could do about it. And then as far as the $495,042, the project that they proposed to use this for, I'll read it to you, is for the purpose of a roof replacement restoration at Amity High School. The roof replacement restoration is anticipated in fiscal year 22, which again is next year, when the 10-year warranty expires. So I was somewhat dismayed by this because I didn't know you replace things when the warranty expires. I thought you replaced them when they needed to be replaced. And it became a lengthy conversation, and I made it abundantly clear that I was not in favor of this because flat roofs do not have to be replaced in 10 years. I mean, the warranty is 10 years, but flat roofs can last 30 years. But they, for whatever reason, they've got it in their mind that they've got to replace this roof. And I said, you mean to tell me you're not going to get a professional roofer up there to look at it and say that it needs to be replaced? You're just going to replace it? And if it needs replacing, well, then maybe we should be going after the warranty. Again, this went on and on. A lot of discussion, a lot of disagreement. And just to remind you all, the Amity Finance Committee is an advisory committee. We conduct discussions, we vote. The Amity Board can completely disregard us, which I told you they did with the health insurance reserve that they passed. So I felt this is entirely, I mean, well, we have $1,200,000. This is the first installment. I said, well, maybe it should be an $800,000 because you can't replace a roof because the warranty is up. That makes absolutely no sense. And, I'm arguing with people that know less about roofs than I do. I'm no roofer, but I know something about construction and contracts. So anyway, to make a long story short, it failed 3-2. Chairman of the Board of Finance in Bethany voted no. I voted no. The gentleman from Orange voted yes, and 2 board members voted yes. And I was beside myself because it's just, they're hoarding money, quite frankly. And I told them that. I said, you guys are just putting money aside. No, this is taxpayer money. This isn't your money. So then I went into the health reserve, because as I explained to you at the last meeting, they wanted to increase their reserve from 25 to 30%, and we were opposed to that. That was unanimous, the 3 towns plus 1 board member. It failed by a 4-2 vote, and then went to the board. The board over. I relayed that. Well, anyway, they told me, well, I said, this you got too much budgeted anyway. I mean, people aren't running to doctors anymore. Your budget is too high. You're going to have a huge surplus in there. Oh, well, no, we in August, we anticipate a lot of people going to the doctors and catching up before school starts. Well, the month of August, they budgeted $446,000 and they spent $200,000. So through the first 2 months of the year, July and August, which would be busy months for teachers getting their medical issues taken care of, they have a surplus of $400,000. And they don't have an answer. When I tell them, I said, you're not going to spend this money because, I mean, my wife's a dental hygienist. They're searching for people to come in and get their teeth cleaned. I talked to clients of mine who are doctors. They're not, there's a lot of surgeries that are not taking place. There's a lot of things that, so it's not the case. People are not rushing to the doctor. So we are staring at a huge surplus possibly in this medical account, and they jacked it up to 30% reserve, which just furthers my anger. Because again, and then what's going to happen? They're going to have this huge surplus, and they're going to start figuring out ways to spend it. And I keep reminding them, guys, this is taxpayer money you're talking about here. And I plan on, I spoke to Beth briefly about it. I plan on calling the first selectman of Bethany, Paul Cofrancesco, and I'm going to call Jim Zioli just to tune them into this, because I can guarantee you we're going to have a huge surplus at the end of this year. And quite frankly, I spoke to Sheila, who's on the Amity board, and she too was opposed to it, but got nowhere with it. So it was a testy meeting, and quite frankly, I'm getting concerned that they're not responsive to what they should be responsive to. I've always had an issue with board members. We vote for board members for various boards, and yes, they're advocates for the board, but they've also got to be advocates for the taxpayer. This is a two-sided argument here. In other words, you just can't be on the Amity board and say to yourself, anything Amity wants, I'm voting yes, which happens. You got to also think on the other side of the coin about how about the taxpayer. So these are just a couple of items which I'm very concerned about. And and I explained, I said, you guys are you're going to come up with, I know you're going to come up with a budget increase, and Woodbridge for the first time in history is fighting Amity. I mean, they got the football field stopped. They voted down the football field, which is the first no vote Amity has ever seen from Woodbridge. And I told them, I said, you're gonna put a budget out there, and I'll tell you right now, if it's a ridiculous budget, I'm going to be the first one to make people know that I don't think it should be approved. So let's see what happens. But right now, I'm not thrilled to death with what's going on in the ambulance. So, anybody have any questions?
I have no questions, but thank you, Matt. That was very thorough and
Yeah.
and a lot that I
Thank you.
certainly not be aware
It's
of.
yeah, it's they've got this thing about, well, we can't go back to the towns for money. We've got to almost as if we've got to have a loaded budget so that we can cover everything. I said, hey, the three towns covered a $2.1 million fraud. And they did. They voted for it and paid the taxes, and so the towns are not going to turn their back on Hammond. But you can't turn your back on the towns either. And just put all this money aside and hoard all this money. I mean, they just don't listen. I mean, I think I know something about this stuff, and I pleaded with them not to load up this health reserve fund. They did it anyway, so we'll see. I told them they'll be watching it every month, praying that it's higher than the budget because they know they're going to hear it from me if it's not. So, so that's my report on. Ellen, you have anything?
I don't. No.
Okay. Susan.
So the fire commission canceled their meeting. They're actually meeting next week. I did attend the library meeting. And I'll tell you, we should all be very proud of how the library is doing everything they possibly can to make sure that their materials remain available to the town of Woodbridge. As Eric said, it's a little bit of a moving target, but they are talking reopening in incremental steps going forward over the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And just in case you don't know, they currently have a curbside pickup service that they've implemented. The problem is nobody can go into the library and browse, but that's true anywhere. And of course, like all of our offices, and departments, money's complicated because it's such a complicated year. What they think they're saving ultimately could end up as expenditures. They're watching it very carefully. That's all I have to report.
I think all of our departments have just cooperated amazingly well with
Phenomenal.
the situation, right? All of them. Everybody is. I mean, recreation. I know they must be chomping at the bit to get some programs going. And
we have every reason to be proud of every department and board. It's really phenomenal.
Could I just thank you very much? We have a safety committee who's from most members of there's someone from every department, and they're working toward perhaps a soft opening. Earlier, we were thinking about January 2nd. It all depends on what happens with the schools and flu season and everybody getting colds and who knows what's going to happen. But we are preparing for a possibility where, for example, the library folks by appointment could go in and browse.
Correct.
Maybe families at a time. So it's being thought of very carefully. And I can't compliment our town employees enough as to how they're, the taxes were done so well through the window. There was just so many things we have such a group of wonderful folks that just work for our town. We're just so lucky.
I agree.
We really are. And hopefully we can do a few of these soft openings, maybe a little bit with other departments we got to keep everybody safe. That's all.
Correct.
So thank you for letting me interject.
And despite some people probably objecting to it, through careful planning and through our careful budgeting, to have a 13% fund balance is a wonderful thing. I mean, some people are going to say it's way too high, and maybe it is a little high, but you know what? It's good to know we have it, because I can assure you something's going to come down the road as things start reopening and budgets start being worked on. There's definitely going to be a fund balance transfer, I think. I hope I'm wrong, but there's so many unknowns out there as we move forward.
At our SCROG meetings, there's several municipalities that are going through their fund balance to deal with COVID. And, at the end, what are they going to do next year when they want to put a little bit of money toward having a tax? There's going to be nothing left. So we are really in great shape in Woodbridge. Tony said,
we're healthy for now. Let's pray that things go well.
I know. You guys are just doing such a great job. Thank you.
Tom, do you have anything?
I don't, sorry. They had a number of meetings basically all around being prepared for the opening. Some of my neighbors have said so far things are going well. But I didn't get to that last finance meeting.
So of course, we have an interim superintendent.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping they're going to be able to find someone as of January 1st. I think she's here till the end of the year, but it's not going to be easy from what I hear from people I know, that there's so many openings out there that anybody who is a superintendent has got their pick of whatever they want to be. So, and I know K through 6 is not an easy sell. I mean, superintendents want the whole enchilada, as you want to say. They want K through 12 and whatever. So I just hope there's a way to do this. And if they can't find anybody, that they can go with another interim, because you don't want to settle on somebody and at that point. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't envy Woodbridge Board of Ed trying to find a superintendent in this environment. So we'll see what they come up with.
I agree. I think it'll be very difficult, and especially with the environment that we're in general.
Yeah. Is there anything else anyone would like to say? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Okay, have a good one. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right,
Good night,
bye, everybody.
everybody. Thank you.
Hey,